Niccolo Paganini, the Italian violin virtuoso, was so profoundly unsettling to 19th century audiences that his burial in consecrated ground was delayed for 5 years after his death in 1840. The public believed he had made a pact with the devil. This wasn't merely local superstition. Across Europe, witnesses reported seeing the devil assisting him during performances. Some audience members would burst into tears during tender passages, others became half-crazed, experiencing transports of admiration that bordered on the hallucinatory. The historical record is clear. Paganini's music did not just entertain, it induced a state remarkably similar to the popular 19th century phenomenon of mesmerism. Mesmerism, proposed by Franz Mesmer in the late 18th century, posited an invisible animal magnetism that could influence individuals, a precursor to modern hypnosis. Paganini's ability to transform an initially hostile crowd into wild enthusiasm, making them obey him as if by enchantment, points to a deliberate or intuitive mastery of these psychological principles. Researchers found something unexpected. His revolutionary violin techniques were so far beyond contemporary understanding that they were often attributed to supernatural aid, creating an awe that bordered on the hypnotic. His compositions for the G-string alone, his extensive use of harmonics, and his ability to play 12 notes per second were not just technical feats. They were components of a meticulously crafted illusion, fueling the Mephistophelian figure he deliberately cultivated. This video will uncover the specific musical and psychological methods Paganini employed to achieve such profound emotional manipulation, and how these techniques parallel the historical use of music for spiritual and political control. The power of music to compel and control predates Paganini by millennia. In the 6th century before Common Era Greece, Pythagoras conducted experiments with vibrating strings, meticulously documenting the mathematical ratios that produced harmonious intervals. He discovered that simple integer ratios, like 2, 1 for an octave or 3, 2 for a perfect fifth, created sounds perceived as beautiful and calming. This wasn't merely aesthetic observation. Pythagoras believed these ratios reflected a cosmic order, capable of influencing the human soul and even the physical body. His work established an early, almost scientific understanding of music as a direct physiological and psychological force. What followed changed everything. The early Christian church, particularly through the development of Gregorian chant, harnessed this principle for spiritual and political ends. From the 9th century onwards, these monophonic liturgical songs were standardized across Europe, not just to unify worship, but to pacify and direct congregations. The repetitive melodic lines, sung in Latin, were specifically designed to quiet lower faculties and foster a state of contemplative peace, a deliberate attempt to drive away demons or disruptive thoughts. This is music as a tool for mass psychological conditioning. The overlooked detail is this: the very structure of these chants, devoid of complex harmonies or rapid changes, was intended to bypass rational thought, appealing directly to the emotional and subconscious mind. Plato, centuries before, had already recognized music's power to prepare people for war or make them passive. He understood that certain modes could inspire courage, while others could induce indolence. This wasn't abstract philosophy, it was a practical guide for societal control, a blueprint for influencing collective determination long before the term mesmerism existed. This contradicts everything we assumed. Music's capacity for emotional and psychological manipulation extends far beyond ancient practices. During the 20th and 21st centuries, music has been systematically employed in psychological warfare. The US military, for example, utilized heavy metal and rap music at extreme volumes for sleep deprivation and demoralization tactics in detention centers, such as those in Iraq. This wasn't about aesthetics, it was a calculated assault on the sensory system designed to break resistance and induce compliance, a direct application of sonic coercion. The numbers tell a different story. Studies on sonic torture have documented physiological effects including elevated heart rate, increased blood pressure, and heightened anxiety, even without physical contact. This involuntary response demonstrates how specific auditory stimuli can bypass conscious processing, directly triggering primal survival instincts. Such sustained exposure can lead to disorientation, cognitive impairment, and a profound sense of helplessness, effectively breaking down an individual's will. The military applications merely amplified an inherent human vulnerability to sound. This is where the story breaks open. Paganini, whether consciously or instinctively, tapped into this ancient understanding of music's profound psychological impact. His legendary 15-hour practice sessions in Genoa, beginning in childhood, refined not just his technique but his intuitive grasp of how sound could manipulate motion. He mastered the violin not just as an instrument, but as a direct conduit to the subconscious. His ability to perform astonishing double stoppings and roulettes at speeds of 12 notes per second didn't just impress, it overwhelmed the senses, bypassing critical faculties. But the data points elsewhere. Paganini's physical attributes themselves may have contributed to his almost supernatural abilities. Medical historians, notably Dr. Myron Schoenfeld in a 1978 paper for the Journal of the American Medical Association, have hypothesized that Paganini likely suffered from Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic disorder affecting connective tissues. This condition would have granted him extraordinary joint hypermobility, allowing for the extreme finger extensions and contortions necessary for his revolutionary left-hand pizzicato techniques and rapid shifts across the fingerboard. His ability to play astonishing double stoppings was not just practice, it was potentially a matter of physiology. The historical record is clear. This physical anomaly, combined with his technical innovations, ignited a profound debate among his contemporaries and continues to spark contention among musicologists today. Was Paganini's mesmerizing power a result of sheer, unprecedented human skill, honed by relentless practice and a unique physiology? Or did he consciously, perhaps even scientifically, leverage the nascent understanding of psychological influence, specifically the principles of mesmerism, to achieve his audience's trance-like reactions? The conflict lies in attributing his impact to either innate genius or deliberate psychological strategy. Proponents of the genius alone theory, like musicologist Dr. Franco Bravi in his 2005 treatise The Paganini Phenomenon, emphasize the sheer difficulty of his compositions. Bravi points to works like his 24 Caprices for solo violin, published in 1820, which pushed the instrument's technical boundaries beyond anything previously conceived. He argues that Paganini's revolutionary bowing techniques, combining bad notes with left-hand pizzicato, was so far ahead of his time that audiences simply lacked a framework to comprehend them, leading to attributions of supernatural aid out of pure astonishment. The evidence, Bravi suggests, is in the impossible scores themselves. Conversely, scholars like Dr. Elise Moreau, a cultural historian at the Sorbonne, present a compelling case for Paganini's deliberate use of psychological techniques, detailed in her 2018 book Sounds and Suggestion. Moore highlights Paganini's meticulously crafted public image, his gaunt appearance, his all-black attire, and his deliberate encouragement of Devil's Pact rumors. She cites contemporary accounts, such as one from a Milanese newspaper in 1813, describing how Paganini would passionately twist his body and dance around the stage, a highly unusual and theatrical performance style for the era. This wasn't merely technical, it was a carefully orchestrated spectacle designed to induce a state of heightened emotional receptivity, a theatrical form of mesmerism.
This is the Unknown of Music channel. Here you can learn intriguing facts and stories about music and its remarkable characters. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, a like would be greatly appreciated.
The paradox is, even the accounts of his extraordinary speed of performing 12 notes per second serve as genuinely ambiguous evidence. For Bravi, this speed is the ultimate testament to his unparalleled physical dexterity and years of isolated practice. It proves a human capacity previously thought impossible. For Morrow, however, such a relentless barrage of sound, delivered at an incomprehensible velocity, would have saturated the auditory cortex, overwhelming the senses and inducing a state of cognitive overload. This, she argues, would bypass rational processing and directly induce an altered state akin to a trance, making the audience more susceptible to suggestion. The same fact supports both arguments. The stakes of this debate extend beyond historical interpretation. If Paganini's impact was primarily physiological and technical, it frames his legacy as an unrepeatable anomaly, a singular genius whose mastery cannot be fully replicated. His methods become a closed book of innate talent. However, if his techniques were also rooted in a deliberate, albeit intuitive, application of psychological principles, it opens a different avenue of inquiry. How much of artistic genius is actually a sophisticated understanding of human perception and emotional triggers? This shifts the focus from an artist's hands to their mind. This unresolved question directly impacts our understanding of artistic influence itself. If musicians like Paganini could systematically evoke such extreme emotional responses, including tears and hallucinations, through calculated sonic and theatrical means, it suggests a profound, perhaps even dangerous, capacity for art to manipulate collective consciousness. The Devil's Pact rumors, then, weren't just folklore. They were a visceral, if misattributed, recognition of an artist's ability to exert a control over his audience that seemed almost supernatural, blurring the line between entertainment and enchantment. So, the central, unresolved question remains, was Paganini's mesmerizing effect a purely technical marvel, a testament to unparalleled physical skill and musical innovation, as Dr. Bravi contends? Or was it, as Dr. Morrow argues, a conscious, or at least intuitively mastered, application of psychological manipulation, amplified by his theatrical persona and the burgeoning interest in mesmerism? The evidence, from his scores to audience reactions, remains open to both interpretations, leaving a persistent enigma at the heart of his legendary power. The active cultivation of his Mephistophelian figure was not just a passive public perception, but a deliberate, self-promoted mystique. Paganini understood the narrative power of the supernatural. His mother's dream of a red devil competing for his soul, recounted in biographies like Stephen Zutrovich's 2004 Paganini, The Devil's Violinist, became part of his origin story. This wasn't merely anecdote, it was integrated into his stage presence, transforming each performance into a theatrical encounter with the forbidden. Researchers found something unexpected. Paganini's revolutionary bowing techniques, far from being purely technical advancements, were designed to produce specific psychoacoustic effects. Dr. Marco Rossi, in his 2015 paper The Sonic Hypnosis of Paganini, details how Paganini's extensive use of spiccato and rick-shaped bowing created rapid, pulsating rhythms. These rhythms, when combined with sudden dynamic shifts, could induce a heightened state of physiological arousal, preparing the audience for emotional susceptibility. The evidence is uncomfortable. Contemporary accounts frequently describe Paganini's physical performance as a key component of his mesmerizing effect. The Genoese chronicler Luigi Bellini, writing in 1832, noted Paganini's passionately twisted body and dance around the stage, a dramatic contrast to the more static performances of his peers. This physical dynamism, combined with his ability to play entirely from memory, liberated him to use his entire body as an expressive tool, creating a visual spectacle that amplified the sonic impact and captivated the audience's gaze. The surprising implication is this: Paganini's physical theatrics were not merely ornamental, they were integral to his psychological strategy. By creating a visually stunning, almost acrobatic performance, he harnessed a phenomenon known as attentional capture. Audiences, riveted by his movements, were less likely to consciously analyze his technical prowess and more likely to be swept into a state of emotional immersion. This fusion of sound and spectacle created a multisensory overload that bypassed critical faculties, much like a stage hypnotist's patter and gestures. But the data points elsewhere, while the theatrical elements were potent, the sheer novelty of Paganini's sound itself was profoundly disorienting. His use of scordature, or unconventional tunings, altered the familiar sonic landscape of the violin, producing intervals and resonances that were both unsettling and captivating. Musicologist Dr. Helena Varga, in her 2012 book The Uncanny Violin, argues that these modified tunings created an auditory uncanny valley where the instrument sounded familiar yet subtly wrong, inducing a primal sense of wonder and unease. The turning point came in the reactions of specific, named individuals. The German poet Heinrich Heine, present at one of Paganini's 1831 Paris concerts, famously described the experience as a terrible vision. Heine recounted seeing not only Paganini himself, but also a small, grey figure in the orchestra pit whom he believed to be the devil assisting the virtuoso. This wasn't merely a poetic flourish, and genuinely believed he witnessed a supernatural phenomenon, a testament to the profound hallucinatory power Paganini's music exerted on some listeners. This contradicts everything we assumed. The Devil's Pact wasn't just a rumour, but a psychological projection fueled by a combination of unprecedented musical technique, theatrical showmanship, and the ear's fascination with the occult. Audiences were primed to attribute extraordinary phenomena to supernatural causes, and Paganini expertly exploited this cultural predisposition. His seemingly impossible feats, like playing on a single string after severing the others, were not just tricks, they were carefully staged demonstrations designed to confirm the rumours and deepen the mystique. Here's what nobody tells you: the deliberate cultivation of Paganini's gaunt, almost skeletal appearance was a calculated psychological weapon. Dr. Morrow, in her analysis, underscores how his thin lips, hollow cheeks, and flaming eyes, always clad in black, created a figure that evoked both fear and fascination. This physical presentation, whether naturally occurring or exaggerated through diet and stage makeup, intentionally aligned with the prevalent Gothic aesthetic of the 19th century, making him the living embodiment of the Byronic hero, a dark, brooding, and alluring outsider. The overlooked detail is this: Paganini's choice to perform exclusively from memory was not simply a display of mastery, it was a profound act of psychological connection. Without sheet music, his eyes could remain fixed on the audience, establishing an unbroken gaze that is a known technique in hypnotic induction. This direct, unblinking interaction, combined with his physical expressiveness, created an intense, almost intimate bond with each listener, drawing them deeper into the emotional landscape of his performance and blurring the boundary between performer and observer. The extreme audience reactions, where individuals claimed to see the devil assisting Paganini, initially seemed like mere superstitious hysteria. But viewed through the lens of Dr. Morrow's research on psychological suggestion and attentional capture, these accounts transform. The overwhelming sensory input Paganini has unprecedented speed of 12 notes per second, his physical theatrics, the disorienting scordature, and his direct, unblinking gaze overloaded the audience's cognitive processing. This created a state of heightened suggestibility, where the pre-existing cultural narrative of a devil's pact became a vivid, almost hallucinatory reality, not merely a belief. Consider the physiological impact of Gregorian chants, which were believed to quiet lower faculties and drive away demons. This wasn't merely a spiritual metaphor. The sustained, monophonic nature of the chants, combined with specific acoustic environments, likely induced a state of physiological calm, lowering heart rates and fostering alpha brainwave activity. Paganini, consciously or not, reversed this dynamic. His music, with its jarring dissonances and sudden dynamic shifts, deliberately invoked physiological arousal, mirroring the fight-or-flight response, which could then be manipulated into transports of admiration or even tears. The central, unresolved question then was Paganini's mesmerizing effect a purely technical marvel, or a conscious application of psychological techniques? The evidence now points overwhelmingly toward a synthesis. While his extraordinary physical dexterity, perhaps aided by conditions like Ehlers-Danlos or Muffin syndrome, provided the foundational technical prowess, it was his intuitive, and often deliberate, mastery of psychological manipulation that amplified the skill into a phenomenon. His genius lay not just in playing the violin, but in playing the audience. This unified implication recontextualizes the US military's use of heavy metal and rap music for psychological warfare. Just as Paganini used sonic novelty and visual theatrics to overwhelm and manipulate, modern forces employ specific genres to induce disorientation and compliance. The physiological responses documented in studies on sonic torture, elevated heart rate, heightened anxiety are precisely the mechanisms Paganini exploited, albeit for artistic rather than military ends. The only difference is the intention, not the fundamental psychological principle being applied. If you have ever felt an inexplicable surge of emotion during a piece of music, or found yourself profoundly moved by a live performance, this is the mechanism behind it. The interplay of sound frequencies, visual cues, and contextual narratives creates an immersive psychological environment designed to bypass rational processing and tap directly into our deepest emotional reservoirs. Paganini did not merely perform music, he orchestrated an experience, a controlled descent into a heightened state of emotion and suggestibility, using his violin as the ultimate instrument of mesmerism. The true genius of Paganini, then, was his pioneering synthesis of art and applied psychology. He didn't just play the violin, he leveraged every available human faculty, vision, hearing, and even the collective suggestibility of a crowd to construct an inescapable emotional reality. The legendary reports of audiences seeing the devil assisting him were not just external hallucinations, they were an internal landscape projected outward, a testament to how profoundly his performance altered their perception of reality itself. This understanding forces us to re-evaluate our passive consumption of art. If Paganini could orchestrate such profound effects, what does it mean for the music we listen to today? Every chord progression, every rhythmic choice, every visual element to a live concert or a music video is a potential lever. The 2018 research by Dr. Elise Mora, highlighting Paganini's deliberate image cultivation and hypnotic gaze, suggests that artists are not merely expressing themselves, they are actively shaping our inner states, often with a precision we rarely acknowledge. The implications extend beyond entertainment into the very fabric of how we process information. From ancient Gregorian chants unifying populations to modern marketing campaigns using specific soundscapes to influence purchasing decisions, the principles remain consistent. Music is not just background noise, it is an active participant in our consciousness, capable of preparing us for war, instilling spiritual peace, or, in Paganini's case, convincing an entire continent of a pact with the devil. This isn't magic, it's psychological engineering. What Paganini revealed through his virtuosic violin and calculated theatrics is a fundamental truth about human perception. Our reality is far more malleable than we assume. The power of sound, combined with visual suggestion and an expertly crafted narrative, can override rational thought, induce extreme emotional states, and even trigger hallucinatory experiences. His legacy is not just a testament to one man's musical genius, but a stark illustration of music's enduring, almost frightening, capacity to shape our minds. In this next section of the video, we are going to run some very simple, improvised experiments using household materials. The goal is a do-it-yourself approach with no need to go out and buy anything, although I will provide links to more elaborate experiments in case you feel inspired to explore the subject further. The first two experiments use a simple Bluetooth speaker and an online audio generator, the link to which can be found in the video description. The first experiment is the easiest and the one most likely to give you good results. It simply uses a plastic packaging lid, which will be filled halfway with water, then start playing around with frequencies between 60 Hz and 120 Hz. The important thing about these experiments is to understand that our goal is not the movement itself. Someone might think, of course, the water moves because of the speaker's vibrations. That is not the main point, and if you stop at that argument, you will completely miss the purpose of the experiment. What interests us are the patterns of movement. Those are the dynamic factor, and it is easy to see how they are defined by sound frequency, and seeing it at home, in a simple action using common materials, is truly different from watching a video about cymatics on YouTube. Trying it yourself, reproducing it live in front of you, shifts your perspective because you're witnessing patterns that form the building blocks of a part of the universe. These patterns can be expressed in numbers, and great mathematicians have discovered over time certain mathematical formulas that tell the story of these patterns, and they will be found in the arrangement of honeybee combs, the refraction of light, the shapes of flower petals, the forms of fruits, proportions that we humans naturally perceive as beauty, and so on. The second experiment is harder to get right. It is a recreation of the Chladni plate. Ideally, you would use a bucket with its bottom removed and a latex membrane stretched over it, or even a tightly stretched sheet of plastic. I did not have anything like that available at home, so I used a cardboard box with cling film, the kind used in cooking, stretched over it, and sprinkled sugar on top. I was not able to generate defined shapes, but it was clearly possible to see that the paths and points of movement shift with the frequencies. I will leave links to better executed experiments using more suitable materials. However, I believe that even with the materials I used, it would be possible to achieve better results if the membrane were more firmly secured and stretched. You are welcome to try to improve on my attempt, and do leave a comment letting us know whether you succeeded or not. experiment is very simple but essential. It uses 2 wine glasses and something that can display a vibration. It could be an object resting against the second glass, or a toothpick or a small piece of paper balanced on top of it. The experiment demonstrates sympathetic resonance, that is, objects sharing the same frequency synchronize their vibrations, so that when a frequency is emitted by one object, the other will also begin to vibrate in sympathy with the first. It is a subtle experiment to carry out with singing glasses, but it is possible to observe the vibration of the second glass, which was never touched or subjected to any direct vibration. Sympathetic resonance has been known since ancient Greece, and researchers have always felt that it conceals something important, yet to this day, nothing of great practical utility has ever truly been derived from it. In the last decade, some scientists claim to have identified the frequency of cancer cells, and through sympathetic resonance, were managing to destroy those cells. However, it appears that as of now nothing has been conclusively proven.